And welcome back. So submissions on the reform of the electoral system for the National Assembly and Provincial Legislatures have been extended by another month to the end of October. The Electoral Reform Consultation Panel was appointed earlier this year to independently investigate and make recommendations on potential reforms of the electoral system ahead of the 2029 national and provincial elections. The general public organizations, including political parties and prospective independent candidates, have been invited to participate. Let's now get an update on some of the consultations with the chairperson of the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel, Advocate Richard Sizani. Advocate Sizani, good afternoon, or rather good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. So why was this decision taken to have an extension for submissions?
When we reported to Parliament, they felt that 1 month is not enough for South Africans, especially in outlying areas, in the rural areas and so on, to be able to make these submissions. Even themselves, they felt this is a very important thing because we've always had a transitional election since 1994. So it's the first time we're going to have a final election now. They felt that they also need to do research and check. For that, 1 month was just too short.
Yeah, so explain to us how this is going to work, including what the deadline is for the panel, because there was an issue that was also raised before the appointment of the panel, that the panel was appointed very late, just before the elections.
Well, the panel basically has 1 month, 1 year, up to the 31st of May, to do public hearings, to do consultation, and to listen to people and receive submissions. So we have put about 6 phases of our process. From now up to the end of October, we will be waiting for submissions, which can be sent to any office of the Home Affairs, and they can also be emailed to our email as it has been published. So we will do that. Then after October to February, we will then be dealing with public hearings where we'll have Mahotla throughout the country and so on. We are, of course, advertising and talking to radio to get people. Our most important thing is actually to listen and to consult people so that they can tell us why, how, and whether the current electoral system should be changed. And then we will investigate that. And we will also have conferences checking how these things happen in other countries. So, but our report will be submitted to the Minister of Home Affairs on the 31st of May, 2025, for the elections of 2029.
Okay. Then there's the issue around the framework of the proposals that are being made and how far they can go. I'm asking this on the basis of the Constitutional Court ruling. And then there were some amendments that were made to the legislation. Some political parties and civil societies not happy with that decision that was taken. Of course, the panel has now been appointed. But in terms of the submissions that are made, would those submissions be made within the perimeters of what the Constitutional Court judgment has said, or would it be within the perimeters of what the legislatures have decided ahead of the May elections, the past elections?
The good thing about this process, the mandate that we've got from the legislation, the Electoral Amendment Act of 2023, is that we must come out with proposals. Let's say about 5 proposals of what models can work in our South African situation. Our constitution as of now requires that it should be generally proportional, but we have not been limited to only stick to what the constitution say. We are required to make those proposals, cost them, say what are their financial implications, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of them, and what are the constitutional implications. Yep. It is for Parliament to look at them and then decide this, although this one is unconstitutional in terms of the certification by our senior counsel, then Parliament can decide to change or not to change the law. So it's broad. We are not limited to the Constitution. we know those that are within the Constitution. We can also go outside the Constitution, but Parliament will make the decision of the final choice of an electoral system, and therefore, if it has to amend the Constitution, it will do so.
And would this include a submission like Bossa has made, for instance, that there should be amendment to the legislation that allows for the direct election of a president?
Well, it's one of the proposals that come. The presidential system is one of the things that people can look at. Proportional representation is one of the systems they can look at. First past the post system, they can look at that. Constituencies, they can look at it. Proportional representation, they can look at it, yes. And then Parliament will take the decision.
Yeah. I know that you're the chairperson of the panel and you didn't appoint yourself. But what do you make of the accusation that is coming from some civil society, including political parties as well, that the panel itself is not well representative in that it excludes civil society?
Well, in the wisdom of Parliament, they felt that people who have a deep interest in this matter should not be on the panel. They should actually make submissions to the panel. So their assumption, whether true or not, was that they would rather choose experts who are not totally linked to political parties, who have not voiced serious opinions about this matter, to listen and bring proposal to that. But since we've been on board, I have met civil society, Selane, Kasak, and other social justice, and many of them. And we've said to them, let's work together. Here are our time frames, here are our terms of reference. Let's cooperate. I've met Mbalintuli and many of them. So we have said to them, please make submissions so that we can make these proposals. We're not taking a decision. But the Parliament had felt in its wisdom that you guys are interested in this matter, you better make submissions, because they don't want a one view, because we are required to give about 3 to 5 views of this matter.
Okay, and finally, once your process is done and you hand over your submissions or the report to the minister, does this then mean that there will be another public process once it now becomes part of amending legislation?
Yes, once it is handed to Parliament 30 days after we submit in May 2025, then, of course, the whole full electoral system of drafting the legislation, going to Parliament, and Parliament holding public hearings and people consulting, and, of course, those that are not happy going to court, it will be that. That is why we're starting this early for the elections, in provincial elections and national elections in 2029.
Thank you so much for your time. Advocate Richard Sizani is the chairperson of that electoral reform panel that has been set up to look at some of the electoral amendments to the country's electoral legislation. That's all for the first hour of the AM report. We're going to take a quick break. At the top of the hour, we continue with the AM.